Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to another Football Manager experiment. Today is something a little bit different, and I was inspired by the fact that recently, a couple of weeks ago, Zlatan Ibrahimovic got injured in real life, and obviously, you know, that made Rashford and Martial more important to the team, and they started playing them more, and they had a couple of decent results. And then some commentators have saying, you know, it's almost Ibra's a brilliant player, but it's almost like they're playing better with Rashford and Martial because they're quicker players and pacier players, and maybe actually Man United play better that way. And I was like thinking about it, so I thought, you know what, I'll see if it's right. So what we're gonna do, this is Ibrahimovic, obviously an amazing player, but 34 years old now at the start of the game, and he's not slow, but he's got 14 pace and 12 acceleration. By the end of the first season, it's usually about 10 acceleration and 12 pace, just because he's so old. 6 years younger than me, but he's so very old. So I thought, what we should do is we should have a look and see how he gets on. So rather than do a boring, one season and see if he scores more goals, I'm quite methodical in my methods. We've done 5 seasons of him before, just as he is now, and then we've done 5 seasons with 20 acceleration and 20 pace, just to see how much of a difference those stats will matter. So let me bring up the first slide. So this is before. Slow Zlatan, not exactly slow, but I'd take 14 pace, but this is what Man United did in that first season. So their average finish was 4th, and their average points was 76.4. They had one good season, really, when they finished 2nd in the league with 87 points. All others, they've been decent. Another thing to note is any time Zlatan had a bad injury, then I'd redo the season. I'd cancel that season. Luckily, he had no injuries. He played a similar amount of games on both slow and fast 5 years. So there's slow Zlatan. Pretty realistic for Man United as their current squad is at the moment. They're sitting in 5th in real life, so not too bad whatsoever. So let's look at the overall competitions. So these are the other competitions they're in: FA Cup, the EFL Cup, and Europa League. Interestingly, and this happened all 5 seasons with slow Zlatan and all 5 seasons with fast, he barely played a single game in the FA Cup or the League Cup. So these two aren't really important. He was obviously rested for the important stuff like the Europa League and the League. And as you can see in the Europa League, they did all right. They won it 3 times, final once, and the first knockout stage. That might have helped him in the league, which is interesting. That was their good season in the league when they fucked it up in the Europa League. So let's have a look at his goals for those first 5 years. So here it is here. You can pause if you want to look into sort of more detail, but I've given you the overall ratings here. So 171 games, 86 goals. So that's just about an average goals of 0.5. 1 goal every 2 games. It's what they always say a good striker is, really, isn't it? And in the Europa League, he did a little bit better. 34 goals in 59, meaning 0.57. So just over a goal every 2 games. And did really well. You know, you take that, wouldn't you? You know, that's a decent performance. Now, let's look at the new one. Forget that 20. That weird-looking 20. I did go into the editor and change it. The weird-looking 20 was because I forgot to take a screenshot in-game of him at 20, and then just photoshopped it to 20, because it is 20, and then I obviously left one in there because I'm shit at Photoshop. But in the game, he is 20 and 20. So let's see how Man United did in the league. You don't have to remember the first stats because I've included that. So here we go. So they won the league in the first season, but then it's almost like they had they did better but also worse in some seasons. They finished 6th in 2 seasons. They finished average 4th again, but their average points was actually 1.6 points less with fast Zlatan. And obviously there's loads of other contributing factors. I just thought that was interesting. His complete competitions, they did worse in the Europa League. Again, he didn't play in the FA Cup or EFL Cup. They didn't do quite so well in the Europa League. But like I said, that could be all sorts of weird stuff. This is the big one then. So this is what happens when he's got 20 pace, 20 acceleration. Bosh. Again, you can pause it if you want to look at the individual 5 seasons I've shown there. So, Premier League games, he played 173, which is actually 2 more than the last 5 years, slow Zlatan, and he scored 8 less goals. So an average of 0.45 goals a game. In the Europa League, he played 53 games, which is 6 less, and scored 11 less goals, meaning he got 0.43. So overall, 226 games and 101 goals, 19 less than what he scored, for like 20% less than what he scored when he was slow Zlatan. So his average is 0.45. So this doesn't mean slower players are better. Of course it doesn't. There's much more to it than just him. This was a fun experiment. You could run this 10 times and it might be similar. Like I said, he played most of the games. There was no any serious injuries that he had. It was very consistent with the fact he played League and Europa and didn't play the League Cup or FA Cup very much, like a couple of odd games here and there, but nothing important. And I was really surprised. I thought, even with some variation, he'd still, with 5 seasons, you'd average it out a little bit more and he'd at least score the same amount, if not more. I think the best thing to take from this is the fact that it's not always attributes. Don't just go, look at that guy, he's got 20 pace, he's going to be amazing. That's just a small cog in the machine. For all we know, they could have played Zlatan as a big target man, which is doable because he's good at everything. And so pace was irrelevant to his game. There's various different things that could have gone on. But I think the best thing to remember is don't get too... Obviously, attributes are very important in the game, but don't get too caught up on attributes. Pick players that suit your system, suit your style, suit your tactic. It doesn't have to be the guy that's got all the 20s or the highest attributes. Right, there we go, my friends. Let me know what you think of this sort of mini little... Let me know what you think of this mini little experiment we did here. I was just interested because they were talking about it on, Monday Night Football or something like that, and I just wanted to see in game if it would make much of a difference. And apparently, he gets shitter. So that's worked out well. It's a bit different. But let me know if there's any other experiments or players that you want to see and stuff like that. I also did a bunch of FM16 experiments, which are still relevant because, what if Eden Hazard was really fat? What if David De Gea was really short? Just to see what effect it would have on the game. So that sort of stuff I find interesting. If you haven't already seen what I do normally, I've got a brilliant journeyman series. I do say brilliant. That's quite braggy, isn't it? It's a decent journeyman series. No, I think it's really good fun. And so go check that out if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.